Welcome back to another episode of Bread in Captivity. I'm joined in the studio by my producer, and we're here to talk about just what the hell is going on in the world right now. Let's get into it. So obviously, a lot of people have been tuning into the news on or around October 7th, and that makes perfect sense. About 1,500 Hamas militants broke out of the walls of Gaza and into a kibbutz in Israel and went on an hours-long murder spree, killing more than 1,400 innocent Israeli civilians and taking even more hostage. And since then, the whole world has kind of been looking at the Middle East and wondering what is going on over there, because you have this horrifying thing that happens, and it's a targeted attack against specifically the Jewish community, but the world is reacting in a way that is confusing a lot of people and starting this fogginess of narrative that has a lot of people unsure about what they're supporting, why they're supporting it, why people that they normally found agreeing on everything are at odds, why people who normally don't agree about anything are suddenly all on the same side. We here at Bread in Captivity are here to dive into the nitty-gritty of it. I'm joined here by my producer today, who's been recently researching a lot about the subject.
Yeah, I've been more so researching the health and socioeconomic repercussions of the conflict, not so much what led to the severity of it now.
That's fair. And there are a lot of those, and I know that kind of interests you because you're a science student, a science nerd. But the history of it means a lot here, because the history provides a context that I think is missing for a lot of people and could shed some understanding about why some people feel the way that they do. Here at Bread in Captivity, we don't condone or endorse any kind of violence. That being said, we do want to shed some historical context on the matter that I think puts us all in a moral gray area. As with most things in the world, this can all be laid at the feet of the English.
Why is it always about war with you?
They started this thing.
Oh, surprise. You know what? If you had given me 3 guesses, that would have been top of the list.
Yeah, that should surprise nobody, because they're at the core of a lot of awful things that happen in the world. But let me get specific without getting too specific. So back in the 19-teens, World War I is popping off, and they're looking for a lot of people to join their cause. And in an effort to get people on their side, like countries on their side, they're writing a lot of checks to anybody who will take it in order to get some allies. And one of the groups of people that they start writing checks to are the Arabs in the Ottoman Empire. They sense a weakness there, and they're thinking, if I can promise some of these smaller Arab groups in the Ottoman Empire that I'll support their claim for nationalism and self-determination and a break from the Ottoman Empire, then they can in turn turn against this current foe and become allies of mine, strengthening my position in the war. And a lot of people took this deal. And the English told a lot of places in the Ottoman Empire that we're going to support you when everything else settles down to become your own country. They didn't follow through on that, and that's putting it mildly. But one of the places that was going to get statehood and just recognized as their own spot was Palestine. So don't believe this narrative that it didn't exist or something like that. It was in the Ottoman Empire, but everybody knew that was Palestine. There is documentation that it's Palestine. The British have a Palestine mandate that is way older than the state of Israel. But again, that's just to debunk the narrative that Palestine wasn't a thing. It's wrapped in a technicality that people use to discredit the claim of a lot of people, a rightful claim of a lot of people to that land. Now, mentioning that it's older than Israel is not taking shots at Israel, and we're not saying that, just because one is older that they're not valid in that land. That's not the position we're taking. But just
interesting, though, that after the Second World War, that the UK did not allow any Jewish refugees to come into their country.
Yeah, that's the thing. Israel, the place that is currently Israel, wasn't even the only place that was considered. Like when people were considering where to make a new Jewish state, they considered other places in the world too. A lot of people don't know that, but they landed on that spot. The people who had worked with the English then to put the paperwork together for all of this.
That was probably to appease the Saudis or the Egyptians or something at the time, right? Because they want the oil-rich areas.
Yeah, so they were lying to the Arabs in the Ottoman Empire, saying, I'm gonna let you become your own country, and they definitely had plans to, along with France, to just plunder them for natural resources. But I don't want to get too deep.
Okay.
Because they did definitely tell the Palestinian people that they were going to be their own thing as well. Moving on from there, obviously that doesn't go as planned, and they're not telling the Arabs that I'm double timing you, but they definitely are double timing them and kind of just keeping them on a thread. And they're not putting anything in writing. They're just kind of making word of mouth deals, and people are taking the English on their word, which is, going to bite them in the ass very, very soon. So while they're making all these dealings with the Arab countries, they also recognize that there's an opportunity, I mean the English, also recognize that there's an opportunity to rally Zionist Jews all throughout Europe to a different cause, giving them a Jewish state, which is going to be Israel, which is going to be, which is going to be like taking over part of what is at that time currently Palestine. And this is a very tempting offer because Europe is increasingly becoming a hostile place for Jews, and it's going to lead up to the Holocaust, of course, which is one of the most horrific events in human history. And the tidings are clear. Like, people can feel it in the air. The anti-Semitism is rampant. Everybody is getting on this anti-Semitic sort of vibe. And so this offer to be able to have a safe place for Jews from all over the world to go to, and it has historical significance for them. It's referenced as like the promised land, which is great, but they're promising the same spot of land to two people. And you can see why this is the English's fault. So the Arabs are seeing a bunch of Jewish people. First of all, they already have Jewish people there. There are Arab Christians, Arab Jews, and Arab Muslims living there. The majority are the Muslims by far, but there are definitely Christians and Jewish people living there, and it's a historically significant site for all three groups. You have literally where Jesus was born is in Palestine. You have some of the oldest churches and mosques in history. They're in Palestine. So it's a significant place for a lot of people, and you can see why the idea of just giving it up because a bunch of Europeans decided to make a deal with people behind your back is not going to be met with open arms.
Of course, understandably.
See what I'm saying? So they're noticing, the Arabs in Palestine are noticing a big immigration of Jews to the country, and they're all from Europe, and they're setting up governments, they're setting up Zionist brigades, which are these like fighting forces for the Zionist cause. They're doing all this stuff, and they're wondering, okay, what's going on? Because the English said they were behind me, and now it seems like they're backing somebody else for the same like deal. And the English are like, no, it's not like that. Continue fighting for us. Don't even worry about it. Meanwhile, over in Europe, they're making all kinds of declarations. One of the most famous ones is the Balfour Declaration.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
You've heard that
one, yeah.
Some guy ranking high in the English government, he makes a declaration that they're going to make the state of Israel a thing. And so they've locked themselves in by this declaration. It's not in writing, but they've locked themselves in. England has. And so you have immigration is now backed by the UK, and the Arabs are seeing the two-facedness and the betrayal, the writings on the wall. And so things are already tense. Fast forward, as World War II is popping off, the need for a safe haven for Jewish people is obviously very apparent. Mm-hmm. And so nobody's going to say, we don't want you guys to go there. Check the racism of the Europeans, though. They're not carving them out a safe space in Europe.
Yeah, that's what I was confusing to me too, because it would be far more convenient to do that.
Far more.
Even if you look geographically, it makes a lot more sense to do that.
They're anti-Semitic, racist pieces. They didn't do that, and we will never know why they didn't do that, but they didn't. They sent them to a place where there were two timing people for the same plot of land. And that is starting basically the hostilities. Mm-hmm. And then you have more and more and more and more people coming in from Europe, from all over the world to this new promised land. And it's a deal that was cut with people who aren't even from there. And the people who are from there, okay, the Palestinians, the Arabs that are living there, have been, according to the English and all of their official documents, downgraded to the non-Jewish community of Palestine.
The absolute caucasity.
Can you believe that?
No.
You've been living there your whole life. Your family's been there. You've been there. You've been farming the land. You have olive trees. You've had every major event in your life has been here. And then suddenly Europe just decided you are now the non-Jewish community of your own country.
That's incredulous.
I mean, okay, put this in an example with anywhere else, right? Like I'm in Canada. We have immigration here.
Yeah.
And we're all very proud of that.
Very pro-immigration.
Right? But when you come here, you go through the process and you become Canadian. It's not like you would invite 50,000 immigrants from Taiwan, for example, and then be like, you guys are now the Taiwanese and everybody else who's in Canada is the non-Taiwanese community of Canada.
You must be out of your goddamn mind.
There's no way that would fly.
You know what I mean?
There's no way
America
that would fly.
also has like tons of immigrations. Like imagine you just brought in 50,000 people from Ukraine and now they're Ukrainian and you Americans are the non-Ukrainian community of America. What? So already you can see why it's being met with some hostility. And the English have their fingerprints all over this. They're behind everything.
Yeah.
They're behind everything, which makes their position currently where they're just enabling this current slaughter of innocent people just all that much more frustrating.
Yeah.
But you can see why they're backing who they're backing. They are involved at the very inception of this state. It continues from there. They have that thing that everybody talks about now, the Nakba, okay?
Yes, yeah.
Back when the UK was two-timing the Arab nations, they went over there under the guise of like getting all the information that they needed to prop up the country and, you know, do a proper upgrade. And so they did what is essentially a census. They went house to house in Palestine, you know, recorded who lived where, how old you were, what your political alliances were, everything. And when the Zionist brigade was done training and was ready to go there and invade Israel by force, which was the Nakba that happened, where they drove 750,000 Palestinians out of their land and made them refugees in Gaza.
That's so
They
insane.
had this census. And they were able to systematically just go door to door, knowing where everything was, where everybody was, handed to them by the English, and do the kind of damage that they did. And then all of these people have to run away from their home, their ancestral homes, and become refugees in Gaza. And then fast forward, a bunch of wars pop off in the Middle East. Israel bats a bunch of them off. They are defeated by Lebanon. And then Palestine, the people of Gaza are given the opportunity in 2006 to vote in a government. Hamas is running for election. They are a political group. They're a political party, like the Democrats, like the Conservative Party, the Liberal Party, whatever. Yeah. And they win. And America and the state of Israel, they're not really liking that at all. They're not liking that outcome one bit, because Gaza, the Hamas government, is not really having too many lovey-dovey emotions towards the Jewish people, amongst other things. And again, I'm painting with a broad brush here.
Yeah.
So when they had their elections and they voted in Hamas down in Gaza, this is not talking about the West Bank at all, they withdrew their troops. Israel withdrew their troops and took them to the border of Gaza, which slowly, instead of becoming an invisible line in the sand, becomes an enormous wall that is trapping everybody who lives in Gaza into that space.
Oh, and to my understanding, that's not a very vast area of land, right?
It is 25 miles by 5 miles.
Shut the up.
That is why people say it is the most densely populated place on Earth.
Hearing that number is insane.
People can jog
there's
in
marathons.
one go
Yep.
the entire length of Gaza. And the width of it, the 5 miles, that's most people's morning run anyways. That's how small it is. And 2 million of them live there. So on one side, you have the sea. On the other side, you have Egypt's desert. And then on the other side, a literal wall. You can't leave the wall without Israel's permission. You can't work because they have crippled your economy. They've put a blockade in the sea, so you can't even transport things in or out without their permission. They have control over your electricity, your water, because they're not going to let you build any infrastructure without their permission. And this is canon. People know this. This is a thing. It's been known. And this is decades before October 7th.
This sounds so dystopian. You would think that you're watching something that's on a TV show or you're reading a book or something. because
they live in Katniss Everdeen's district.
Yeah, Hunger Games. That's not even a dramatization. That's
It's
what
not.
it sounds like. That's terrifying.
Like the whole place is Katniss Everdeen's friggin' district. And it gets bombed on the regular because there are those inside that district who dare to resist. And then that becomes a little bit more clear, doesn't it? It becomes a little bit more clear why one side is incredibly pissed. Mm-hmm. Because you can't come in and do all that you did to those people, downgrade them to the second-class citizens of the land that they have been born in, their family was born. And we're not talking about some 100 BC religious text kind of claim, because honestly, religious text should only matter to those who have that faith. And so for you to come into a land and say, because of religious text, this is technically mine, I don't subscribe to your faith. What of that? How about the fact, like, you know what I mean? Don't bring that into this.
Do you know what this actually reminds me of with all of those details is the North American indigenous genocide? Because explain to me how it's any different. You come over, you take over their land, you demolish their resources, you give them no way to fight back and no way to even survive. Something as basic as food and water is in your control.
The difference is in the timeline. We're further ahead. We've done destroyed them.
It's archaic.
We've done destroyed them properly, and now we, mention the fact that we're standing on their land before public.
Also,
speeches.
Statistically, if you think about it, you're packing so many people into such a small area. So you're guaranteeing that even if you're bombing, you are going to be killing a significant amount of people.
They have never been shy. Israel has never been shy about the fact that they are killing civilians. They are getting a lot of attention for their language now because they're not used to getting called out on it. But actually, they define a human shield, and I'll put the links to everything that I'm saying below. They define a human shield as anybody living within 1 mile of somebody who is suspected to be in Hamas. How the hell am I supposed to escape that? It's a 5 mile long, it's a 5 mile width occupation.
And how much time do they even give you to find shelter? That's saying
practically none. They talk about the fact that they send leaflets and stuff down. The place is tiny. And if a mile radius is fair game, then what exactly are you saying? They're saying that they're going to shoot it up. It doesn't matter where. And they're not being shy about this. Now they have their military on TV saying we're not even fighting Hamas. We're fighting Palestinians. People acting like these Palestinians are barbaric, but not ever taking into account the history behind their condition. There are people who have been born in Gaza and have been trapped behind a wall their entire life. That is all they have ever known. Now that things are getting a little bit unsafe in Israel, we have seen the videos of people boarding flights right out of Tel Aviv, a luxury that people in Gaza will never have, which really just drives home that a little bit of clarity about claim over that land. Some of y'all can leave and some of y'all can't, because some of you guys are from there and some of you guys are a very new addition to the neighborhood. And I'm not saying that Israel should not exist, but far from it. After what the Jewish people have been through collectively, I believe they deserve a place that they can call home. 100%. You build a military for yourself. You have a place where you can protect your own people. And I will never deny.
Absolutely.
I will never play dumb as to why that would be a necessary thing to do. Mm-hmm. But we're talking about the way that you guys are doing it. We're talking about the fact that you've been doing this for so long, basically creating these situations where only radicals can come out of it, because the alternative is to just lay back and take it.
Yep.
The alternative is to say, I won't resist you. I'll just live behind this wall. And who do you think you are to expect that from people? It's by any measure of the word, they're committing international law. By any measure of the word, by any organization who looks into it. And they are doing it now in a way that I don't think they were prepared for this blowback. I think they thought they were going to be able to just say Hamas, 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 and do all of these atrocious things. And I'm not saying I don't understand why they would want to answer back with some force. And I'm not saying don't do anything. 1,400 of your people get killed.
That's not insignificant.
That's not insignificant at all. And of course, you would want to respond to that.
Yes.
But the way you're responding is so clearly out of proportion. And then you tie that in with the genocidal things that people who are in the leadership of Israel are saying so publicly, and you cannot pretend that the two are not related. If the president is saying that they're human animals and we need to just destroy everything, if soldiers who are on the ground fighting are saying we're not fighting Hamas, we're fighting Palestinian people, you cannot separate that from the fact that this is an overreaction.
That's incredibly repugnant. I don't understand, as a soldier in the front line, how you can see all of the terror that you are causing and feel that it's for a justifiable reason.
Well, it's important to point out that Israel does have conscription, so everybody has to serve in the military. It's not a choice.
That's even worse.
Yeah.
So I bet that there is a population of people who don't even want to be there, don't agree with this cause, and they're forced to go and participate.
Okay, that's a good point, and that makes me want to bring something up. So, yes, there is conscription, and yes, there are definitely people in Israel who do not like what's going on at all. They're out there, they're saying they don't want war, they're protesting. It's something that the Israeli government is doing a lot, like putting their damnedest effort behind shutting down and not letting people see. But it is a movement that's there, and I won't deny it. The polling, though, that comes out of Israel when they're asked about what's going on vis-a-vis Palestinians paints a different picture. They don't want the war, sure, but a lot of them still don't mess with Palestinians. They just don't want this violence. But again, this isn't about civilians, because you can have your opinion, and I'm not going to pretend like I don't understand where that opinion comes from. The generation that started Israel was probably experiencing a lot of trauma, generational trauma from what they had gone through, what their families had gone through. So there's a lot to consider here. There are a lot of nuances, a lot of opinions, valid opinions, but there are also facts. And the fact of the matter is what Israel is doing right now is pure evil, and they have been up to it for years and decades. A good example of this is what's happening in the West Bank. So the West Bank is not part of Gaza. Israel and Palestine's map has adjusted throughout the years, and a big reason for this are settlements. Settlements are basically if somebody goes beyond a clearly defined border, right? That's your space, this is my space, I'm in my space, you're in your space, and I come from where I am and set up a neighborhood in your part of town, okay, like across the border, that's Palestine, I'm Israel, and Israel comes and sets up a neighborhood in Palestine and then sends their troops to go and protect that neighborhood from anybody who might have a problem with it.
That's crazy.
That is ballsy. That is crazy. And that has been happening for decades, way, way, way beyond before October 7th. So not only do they come in and take land that the entire international community, and even in the beginning, the Israeli government was trying not to co-sign what these radicals were doing, but they were still sending troops to go and protect them. And there's a lot of people in Israel, like proper, the regular Israel, that really don't like what the settlements are all about. But nevertheless, they are protected by the military. That's a fact. They go there, they'll take somebody's house. How they take it? Any number of ways. They'll say they bought it from somebody. They can just murder you and take it. And there are examples of this. I will post them down below, so look it up.
It's legal for them to just murder people to take their property?
It's not legal, but they're doing it. And in fact, since October 7th, when everybody's looking at Gaza, that activity has risen. They're arming themselves. There are videos of the Israeli government handing out like weapons to settlers, telling them, go nuts.
That is unimaginable.
That is happening. And they want to pretend that they're living next to terrorists and they're the civilized ones.
Hello, pot. It's me, Kettle.
You know what I'm saying? That's insane. And you're just gaslighting them. It's gaslighting on gaslighting. So those settlements have been a thing for decades and decades and decades. That has nothing to do with Gaza. Gaza had their own elections and voted in Hamas in 2006, something they have never been able to change since then. They have not been able to hold elections over there. They just haven't been. And Hamas ain't gonna let them hold no elections. I'm not singing Hamas's praise. They are deranged for what they did.
Yeah.
But they're not gonna let them hold no elections. And the West Bank had different elections, different government. There is no Hamas up there. So what's the justification for that? And why are we supposed to take the word now, all of a sudden, of a state that has been growing their settlements against all international law? And that's the thing. You go on TV and people just legitimize every single thing Israel does. And then anything that's coming from Palestine is automatically met with like remarks like, do you condemn what Hamas did? Nobody is going on TV and saying, do you condemn the settlements? Do you condemn the conditions? And that is why people, when they're out there supporting Palestine and you think that's so crazy, this is the context that's missing. And it's never provided to you by the mainstream media.
You know, in this situation, it seems as if there is a value for human life, and it is decided by the UK.
Yeah, and America, because America has just been showing its ass. They've been at the United Nations Security Council basically vetoing any effort to get a ceasefire in place. And they have their own interests, right? People are like, why is America being so evil? They're not evil. They're just money hungry. When wars go off, they're able to sell a bunch of weapons to people, and they love that.
I would say they are still evil while being
but
money
the root of their evil is not, oh, I want to see innocent civilians die. It's money. They're selling stuff. And it's so obvious, it's practically laughable because you are allied with countries like Saudi, and they are regularly beheading people. And then you want to get on TV and be like, oh my God, they're beheading people. But your friends are beheading people. You know, it's comical once you know even a little bit about what's going on. You look at the situation and you think to yourself, what happened is truly disgusting and evil. What happened on October 7th to those innocent civilians. But at the same time, a blind man could have seen this coming. So why hasn't anybody been working towards something that gives the Palestinian people any sort of hope? You know what I mean? What do they have to look forward to? Nothing. They're trapped inside of a wall. And the choice becomes go out in a blaze of glory or die slowly behind this wall. And it's an impossible choice, but that is the choice there. It's not like they were sitting at home playing on their Xbox, wondering where they're going to go to school next year, and then just like, screw all that. I'll just go and murder some people. There is a context behind this. It's playing the victim, knowing that you are the aggressor. And it's the fact that you're doing it so brazenly that's driving everybody crazy, because you cannot tell people, oh, calm down, when you have settlements all up on their territory. And in these settlements, anything goes. If you're a settler, you can just do whatever because the military is there to protect you and they are not there to protect the Palestinians. So imagine, for example, you're walking home with your sibling. You went to school, you're on your way home, and some settler kid comes up to you, and this has happened. It's happened. And I'll put documentation in the description below. And some settler kid comes up to you and just hits your brother or sister in the eye. What do you do? What do you do? You can't do anything. These guys are protected. There are military personnel around watching you. You can't act up. You have to just allow someone to assault your sibling and eat that. That for me alone would drive me crazy.
Yeah.
Because you'd have to end me.
Yeah.
You'd have to end me. No one's going to just come shove my mom to the floor or like throw my uncle out of a wheelchair or something. And I'm just supposed to stand by. And if I do anything in response to that, I'm the terrorist.
You must be out of your goddamn mind.
I'm the terrorist. You're over here where you're not supposed to be at all. Even if we're doing the borders that we agreed to, like you're not supposed to be here. And I'm the terrorist if I act up when you're harassing my family. We all go to a wedding, we come back, and there's a settler family in your house. What are you supposed to do?
I can't even put myself in that situation.
You go out to a wedding and some European family or some American family is in your house and you can't say boop. You can try to go to the courts. The Israeli courts, because there's no Palestinian courts you can go to, they're not going to come to those courts even if you built them, and plead your case.
They're essentially just being treated as an inferior racial group and just being deprived systematically of all of their rights and autonomy.
Your options at that point are to get murked by a gun or die of a heart attack. Because you can't keep that in. You can't keep that in. You can't keep that in. And how are you going to talk to me about, oh, we need peace and we're trying to protect the Palestinian people too? What? It's just such an obvious lie. No, you're not. What are you talking about?
If you were trying to protect the Palestinian people, you would not be bombing their hospitals.
Get the hell out of those settlements. Even if you just took Gaza out the picture, get the hell out of those settlements. You don't even go there.
You literally don't go there.
You don't go there. That's not your spot. That's not yours. Stop sending your military to go protect settlers. There's no other group of people in the world who would have that burden put on them. Have your land snatched. Have your house snatched. It is a crime. The whole world knows it's a crime. The UN is on TV saying it's a crime. Israel is saying it's a crime. Israel is saying it's a crime, and still we're not going to do anything about it. But if you do something about it, you're a terrorist. People are going to boil over. People are going to boil over. And that's why I'm saying a blind guy could have seen this coming. You cannot keep people in this condition and ask them to just wait it out. Wait until I'm ready, snatching everything you got, and then we'll talk about it. Again, the Israeli government doesn't speak for all Jewish people. And when we're criticizing the actions here, we're criticizing the actions of the Israeli government. We are not saying that they speak for all Jewish people. There are so many Jewish people who have come out in solidarity for the Palestinian people. And this is why, because they know what's going on over there, and they're not trying to have that done in their name. And we've seen amazing demonstrations like the one you showed me at Grand Central Station. Beautiful.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So don't believe the lies. People are going outside now on TV talking about making a list of what anti-Semitism means now. Get the heck out of here. Merriam-Webster defined that thing a long time ago. And you're not about to come over here and add a bunch of stuff to the list talking about if you say this, it's anti-Semitic. If you say this, it's anti-Semitic. No. You don't get to just decide what words mean now and then say, I'm saying it on behalf of Jewish people while you're arresting Jewish people in Grand Central Station for disagreeing with you.
But honestly, while you're concerned about anti-Semitism, why are you also not concerned about the fact that you have built an institution around a prolonged racist oppression?
Seriously, they're not mad about that at all. Palestinians are just like, hey, so can we just agree that you maybe shouldn't be doing this land grabbing anymore? And they're like, so listen, we're not going to stop the settlements. We're not going to stop arming people when they go to the settlements. And we are still definitely going to arrest you if you try to touch a settler. But honestly, we don't all agree with what's going on. So yeah, we good? No, we're not good. No, we're not good. And there's a wall locking you into Gaza. You have to have a permit to leave. And the permits have a color coding system. And you can't do nothing about that color coding system. If you don't have the right color permit to leave Gaza, you don't have a way to work.
It is essentially currently the largest prison system.
90% of their GDP is donations. Like more than 90% of the money that goes into Gaza is from donations. They're not allowed to have businesses. They're not allowed to have shops. They're not allowed to do anything unless Israel gives them permission. And if with every 1 mile is considered an aider and abetter of Hamas, you can see how that's just never going to work out in a place that small. Oh, I saw Hamas there last month. I saw Hamas there last week. They can just throw that word around as much as they want. And if you question it, you're somehow a Jew hater. And what the hell kind of logic is that? Because to say that is to say that all Jewish people co-sign what's going on over there. And that is anti-Semitic. You can't just say that all Jewish people want to bomb the crap out of Gaza, therefore saying that that's not okay. Is like, come on, the mental gymnastics is not something we have to tolerate or entertain.
You know, that's really interesting that you say that because I read a research paper written by Frank S. Rosenthal, and he's an associate professor of occupational and environmental health sciences at Purdue University.
Okay.
He was basically studying the health and social repercussions of this conflict. And in it mentioned that in 2017, there was a significant difference, an economic disparity between Israel and Palestine, with Israel boasting a per capita GDP of $40,270, while Palestine's, and this is crazy, per capita GDP was $3,095. This is US dollars.
Numbers don't lie. Numbers don't lie. You can pretend that people are putting a spin on things, but numbers don't lie. Even before this conflict, way, way, way before October 7th, life in Gaza was no cakewalk for people at all. Day-to-day tasks restricted, movement restricted, and the numbers, the statistics, we have those, and they will shock you.
Yeah. In 2017 alone, the infant, child, and maternal mortality rate was 6 times higher in Palestine than Israel.
And this is way before any conflict started recently.
Yeah, and this is not just a significant number. It's statistically extremely alarming.
And numbers don't lie.
Their environmental risks actually contribute significantly to the leading causes of death.
People in big cities, they wear masks when their factories are going too hard and there's pollution in the air. But this is a confined, small space. So when this rubble and stuff blows up, that's in the air. If that's happening to you right now, you don't even get the luxury of turning on a tap to just wash your hands or rinse your face. And you have nothing to do with this struggle. You have nothing to do with this attack.
Yeah.
Just as those people in the kibbutz were innocent, you're also innocent. But you're being decimated. And on the other side of the wall, people are having concerts. They're having bake sales and drives for the soldiers that are just pummeling you to death. And that contrast, it's been there. It's been there for so long. And that's
interesting that you mentioned the water, because since 1967, Palestinians have not been able to drill any new wells, install any pumps, or even collect rainwater. So the water that they have access to right now, which is sparse, is 98% infected. It's not consumable.
And this is the myth, right? This is the propaganda. Oh, Hamas is responsible for their own people. They can't be. You have tied their hands behind their back. This is why people are rebelling against you. This is why the international community is not having your back this time, because what you are up to is evil. And this isn't a representation of all Jewish people. But the people who are in charge of Israel right now, man, oh man, they are not hiding their intentions. They are not hiding it one bit. And in a way, it's very good that they're getting this attention now, because at least people can learn the history a little bit and understand what led up to this. The lives and futures and everything of the Palestinian people was always determined by Israel. And they have been living under that kind of control for forever. And if they try to fight back, if they try to form a resistance, which anybody would, they're being labeled terrorists. And I cannot and will not condone acts of violence against innocent civilians, but I also will not pretend I don't know where these things are coming from, because that is not just ignorant, it's malicious. There's a big, big, big human injustice happening in Palestine, and it's been happening for decades, and Israel is the only power really who can stop it. I mean, unless America just picks up a phone and just tells them to stop.
And that is not going to happen.
They would have. Obama did that for his inauguration.
What?
They were fighting and he was just like, cut it out. I'm getting my inauguration's happening. So just
get out. I didn't know that at all.
And they had a ceasefire.
Oh, I got to research that.
Okay, guys, we're going to end it here. This was a really heavy video. Thank you to anyone who's made it this far. We know that there is so much more complexity to this than we were able to cover, but we wanted to offer our perspective, because it feels like the right time to be speaking out for what's right. And if you guys have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. And remember to be respectful. We are not going to tolerate having any anti-Semitic comments in there, or any Islamophobic, or any other terrible ism that you can think of. If it's productive, it'll stay there. And if it has any hate content, it'll be taken down immediately. We don't want those kind of followers. Let us know if you want us to do any more content on this. Our thoughts are with everybody that is suffering right now and everybody that has experienced some loss. We all here know what that's like, and it's unimaginable pain. We hope you get through it soon and better on the other side. And I think that's it. Peace.